Hi, Mr. Bodell here from Bodell's Comfort Footwear. Recently we've gotten emails and comments regarding how you measure feet and as far as a proper fit is concerned. So let's start from the beginning. The first thing we need to know is the difference between the lasts of a men and women's shoes, or feet I should say. A medium width for a woman is a B. Now you're going to go wider or narrower from that last. Medium width for a man is a D. It's 2 widths wider. They're going to go narrower and wider from that. In addition to that, men's sizes are generally speaking a size and a half larger than a women's size. So those are the basics that you need to know is concerning the difference between men's and women's measurements and feet. So from there, the black Brannock device is for the men, and the women's Brannock device is the purples. Okay. Now Brannock, developed by Dr. Brannock, he was an orthopedist in the early 20th century, developed this device to measure the length of the foot, the arch of the foot. Doesn't necessarily measures the volume of the foot. When I'm talking about volume, we're talking about the thickness of the foot. And we're going to get into that in a moment here. They talk, as far as on the internet is concerned, they'll say using a measuring tape to measure the volume of the foot, those kinds of things. Not necessarily really it's going to be that helpful for you, and this is why. The major thing you have to look at, when you put your foot, by the way, the foot is measured on a 45-degree angle. Alright, you measure the right, and then you measure the left. Okay? This way we get a proper landing of where the foot is. When you stand on these, your foot has a tendency to move forward. You're getting inaccurate measurements just because of the extra weight that you're putting on the foot. Get the proper size, you put your heel on the here, and we measure the arch and the width at a 45-degree angle. That is what's going to be the most accurate as far as fitting is concerned. Now, what the measurement here doesn't tell you is that the volume, okay? And we're going to look at that right now. I'm going to use my hand as an example. High instep gives you a higher volume. But with that high instep, you have a high arch. So what you're looking at here, with a high arch, it's called pes cavus. Now, what that means is that with a higher arch, you have a propensity or a tendency to supinate, to turn out. That's supination here. Okay? Now with a low volume instep, in other words, you're flatter in the arch, so this is a pes planus here. It's a low arch. It's also going to give you the unfortunate propensity to pronate. With a low arch, you have a tendency to turn in your ankle like this. Okay, high arch, you have a tendency to turn out. So if you have those issues, you need a firm counter support. It's not necessarily arch support or orthotics. What you need is a firm counter support. The counter is in the heel. So, I'll just use this shoe as an example. If you look here, this is an extended counter. This also has a C-cap. Okay, very firm back here. Prevents that rotation in the ankle. Alright. Now, an experienced fitter, shoe fitter, will be able to detect that when you put your foot on the Brannock device. When you lay your foot here, you have a tendency with a high arch to turn out a little bit, so your foot will lean out. Okay? If you have a low arch, you have a tendency to turn in on the stick. Now, when you're measuring a foot, this is for the left heel. Left heel here. This is where you measure your arch. This is where you measure your width. Okay? You put the foot here, for example. So this is going to be more of a women's size right here. This is an example. So we're going to use the women's Brannock device. So this is for the left. Put the heel all the way back. You take your arch measurement here, right here at the ball of the foot. That's your arch. Measures from the heel to the ball of foot. So right here is your arch. You take your width measurement here, like so. You put it just gently on the side of the foot. Now, this foot is measuring a 6 in length. The arch is measuring approximately a 5.5. So you go to the line here, it tells you what width it is, and it tells me it's a B width, which is a women's medium. Okay? So that's just giving you an example of how to measure a feet. Now, it does nothing about with this instep. Okay? Thus, you don't know, unless you're experienced as far as fitting is concerned, what kind of depth of shoe you need and the width. So it's not only the width this way, you have to account for the instep as well. So if the instep's pretty high, that indicates that you may have to have a little wider width. If the instep's low, indicates you may have to have a little narrow width. Now, this is an average arch. You have a curvature here, you would call it a mid-arch. Fairly average. Now, when you measure feet on here, this is the right side. Usually when you put your foot on here, you can immediately see where the ankle's going. Okay? So if it's a flat foot or low arch, you're going to have a tendency to tilt in. And you can see it when you measure the feet. An experienced fitter can do that. If you have a high arch, you will have that propensity to turn out, even on the measurement. Okay, so that indicates to us that you need a firm counter support. Now, if you have an average foot, average arch, average instep, you may not need that. But most of the people that come in here, we deal with all this kind of suffering as far as low arch, high arch, pronating, supinating, and they also deal with bunions, bunionettes. Now the bunionette can be called a tailor bunion as well. It's on the outside of the foot, so it's called either bunionette or a tailor bunion. Hammer toes, we deal with that all the time. So any of these other indications here will tell you whether you need a deeper toe box, for example, if you need firm counter support, or, for example, let's say if you have issues with your metatarsal arch. That's in the ball of your foot, right in this area here. So your metatarsal is going to be right behind the 5 toes. It's going to be right in this area here. Let's say you have calluses. All right? You're going to need a strong arch here because it will take the weight off the ball of the foot and transfer it to the arch. All right? Let's say if you have plantar fasciitis, for example. Okay, that's in this here. That's your plantar fascia right in this area. All right? You want a strong arch to take the weight off your heel and transfer it to the arch. So there's quite a few things that you have to look for other than just measuring the foot. The reason why is because it doesn't tell you on here what are the issues that you're dealing with. The volume, meaning the instep, bunions, hammer toes, tailor bunions, any of those issues, you have to be able to have the experience to see that and what type of shoe is going to fit your needs. Now, for example, if you have a neuroma between the 2nd or the 3rd toe, you're going to need that weight taken off the forefoot and transferred back to the arch. All these are things that you cannot really measure. All you can do is measure the foot, check out visually how your foot is laying on the stick or the Brannock device, and get a good indication of what kind of shoe you're going to need. And we'll deal with that here all day, every day. Any of the issues that I've just told you, and even more, whether it's edema, post-polio syndrome, any of those, we can deal with that. And it will be accountable to how we measure and how we see it, feel, and check out what those problems you have with your feet. So there you have it as far as simple demonstration of feet measurement, but it goes a lot deeper than that. Okay, you get these measurements or how-to measurements on the internet, but it doesn't really give you the full picture because it doesn't tell me, for example, whether you're a supinator or pronator. You've got hammer toes, bunions, how high your arch is, how low your arch is. All those things are factors in the fitting of the shoe. Hope to see you here, and we'll be able to take care of all your needs. I'm Mr. Bodell from Bodell's Comfort Footwear. Thank you.